Welcome back to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman. It's been a while. Took about a week or so break since I addressed the end of the 24-25 season and some things that I think the program needs to do to address this offseason. Hasn't been much news until this week. The transfer portal obviously opening for college basketball. Rutgers now in the last 28 hours since I'm recording this. I waited one more day because I wanted to see who else would enter the portal. And we've had the news now of Jeremiah Williams on Wednesday entering the portal one day after Lathan Sommerville and Jordan Derkack enter the portal. Of course, there's no guarantee that entering the portal means you leave, but for all intents and purposes, all three are gone. Lathan Sommerville and Jeremiah Williams both having representation. When you have representation, that usually is a signal you're looking for the biggest and best offer. And Jordan Derkack, I think is really looking for fit in terms of playing time opportunity. And I think after this season, he was looking for a fresh start. So what does the roster look like today? What does Rutgers need in the portal? What is their money situation with rev share, NIL, and more? In terms of, we are sitting here the last week of March. We are not rooting for our team in the NCAA tournament. Football, of course, has started spring camp, and I'll have David Anderson on soon. We'll do a whole series of episodes during spring camp culminating in the end of April. But again, focusing on basketball here. But as a whole, for the athletic department, wrestling, unfortunately, no All-Americans at Nationals last weekend. Women's basketball wins the game in the WNIT despite being 8 games under 500. Gymnastics going to their first NCAA regionals in a very long time. Great news for them. But overall, as an athletic department, we sit in the last week of March. We have no president. We have no athletic director, no legal counsel, no GM for basketball. And the portal is officially opened for college basketball. And that's the state of things right now. So Sommerville, J. Will, and Derkack are gone. Obviously, Sommerville, a big loss on the offensive side. Defensively, he struggled. And honestly, I didn't think he was a true 5. I thought he was more of a 4. I wanted him to stay. I'm not trying to downplay the significance of his exit. He certainly was a key piece. I said throughout his freshman year, I thought he had the ability to be his junior year throwback as the leader and face of the program. It's obviously not going to happen now. J. Will really struggled this past year. I think had some injuries. Wore his heart on his sleeve, but unfortunately was not nearly as productive as was expected. And it really did hurt this team. And Derkack, I thought brought some real hustle. We'll always have Madison Square Garden. I was at that game. Unbelievable game for him. But overall, I think from a skill level on the offensive end and just a physicality point in the Big Ten, I think he made the right decision for his career to go to another level. I think, he's a mid-major type player. I think, it'd be interesting to see him in the Atlantic 10, a league like that. So we'll see where he ends up. Those bemoaning the fact that he left, meaning Aiden Derkack, his younger brother in the 26th class, top 50 recruit, will not consider Rutgers now. I mean, I hope he does, but at the same time, in this day and age, you can't rely on any one player. You can't worry about any one player. You just can't. And that's the identity of this program now, is that Rutgers must rebuild the roster. And that's going to be the story every year. And you have 4 players right now remaining from last year's team. Dylan Grant being the centerpiece really, I think, is appropriate in the sense of he has the ability to be a key starter next season. And if you're rebuilding the roster, he is a quintessential Pikiell player to build around. And it's kind of appropriate that he is the key cog now remaining. And if he can develop in the offseason from a consistency standpoint, on the defensive end and rebounding end, if he could continue to develop his three-point shot, I mean, he's got a chance to be really, really good. And he understands the Pikiell way. And it's really important that they retain him. It looks like they will. Obviously, this is early in the transfer portal process. Anything can happen. J. Mike appears to be back as of now. You have also Bryce Dortch, the other freshman, remaining along with Grant, and then Agbole. I think Dortch has a lot of spring to his step. He's athletic. I think his ability to learn how to score in transition. He had a great pass in transition this season. It'd be bulk up, be a little bit more of a consistent rebounder. I think his length defensively, he's smart defensively. I think he's got a potential to be a key rotational player next year. Not a starter, but off the bench. J. Mike, if he's coming off the bench for you, I like that much more than him being a starting guard next season. I like J. Mike. I think he got better as the year went on. I think he still has some deficiencies he has to work on. And, overall, just in terms of his skill set and size, I think ideally he's better served for Rutgers off the bench. Agbole certainly has size. You need as many bigs as you can get, but he's not a starter. So what does that mean? With the recruiting class, 2025 recruiting class, you have 4 guys coming in. You have the center, Javante Ware. He is 6'9", listed as a center. I think he could be projected more as a 4. He's a bit raw. You have Chris Nwuli, who is their highest rated 4-star. He's a wing player, 6'7", could contribute right away, could be a rotational piece. Don't think he should be slated as a starter, projected as a starter. You have Caden Powers, a shooter, who's going to need some time. And then Lino Mark is a playmaking point guard. But again, I think if your 2 point guards in your rotation are Lino Mark and J. Mike, I think Rutgers needs to do better than that. And I think if J. Mike can come off the bench, Lino Mark can take time to develop. You need a bona fide floor general. You need 4 legit starters to really feel like this team is rebuilding without relying on the freshmen, without needing massive leaps from the guys that are returning. You need to go out and get 4 studs in the transfer portal. Can they do it? I know names are being bandied about. It's early. I'm not going to focus on names. I'm going to focus on needs. You obviously need a rim defending center. You need shooting wings that can defend. You need a playmaking point guard. You need a lot. Grant, I think, can solidify things at the 4. Dortch could be a 3 or a 4. Probably a better suited as a 3. He's really a 3. And you need a lot. Now, the question is, what money do they have to spend? So, rev share, I've seen reports of $3 million. The Big Ten recently recommended for football programs 3.6. I think Rutgers will be right around there. You have the $1 million coming in from the NIL tournament in Vegas. And I think all that being said, Knights of the Raritan, all that, I would expect Rutgers to have about, give or take, $5 million to work with here. Now, for those traditionalists, for those, people that just can't swallow the reality of what the NIL world has done. By the way, people that are saying that NIL is ruining college basketball, the NCAA tournament reported the highest ratings they've had in like 35 years this past weekend, and there were like no upsets. But it's setting up. I mean, there's a lot of good matchups in weekend 2. None more painful for Rutgers fans than Cliff Omori versus Mawat Mag at the Prudential Center. We've talked about the dream of Rutgers playing in the Sweet 16 at the Prudential Center. And lo and behold, 2 former Scarlet Knights are facing off head-to-head. And it's the 2 guys that left that if they had stayed, things could have been a lot different for this team. Cliff and Mag both leaving for bigger NIL offers. And there's been a lot of criticism, some of it fair, right? That Steve Pikiell did not have enough to utilize to build a proper roster for the season. That is fair. There's a lot of reasons to that. His athletic director failing him on that front. I do think Pikiell should deserve some credit. They scheduled 5 games 3 series, right? They had the Vegas Players Festival. That got them $1 million in NIL for the team. And then also the games they played against Princeton. And there was another neutral court game that got them money as well, which of course I'm forgetting. Oh, no, it was at the Garden. That game got them NIL too. So they are being creative in generating NIL for their players through their scheduling. They're going to have to continue to do that. But overall, yeah, Rutgers, I mean, if they have $5 million to work with this season, they're not ahead. They're barely keeping pace. And that's how crazy the arms race has gotten. But teams like in the Big East and some of the top tier Atlanta 10 teams don't have football rev share. They're going to have more money than a lot of the Power 4 schools that have to share with football. And then it comes down to your NIL. Rutgers, unfortunately, does not have a very strong NIL right now. Those that are calling for Pikiell's head, look at search season out there. Curry Hicks Sage does a great job. Must listen almost every night right now. But my point is, these coaches are making demands. Look at Willard at Maryland right now. They're making demands in terms of not for their own salary, but what they have available to them in rev share and NIL. That's the name of the game. Like anything in life, the more money you have, the more opportunity there is, the better this and that you can have. Doesn't guarantee success, but if Rutgers year over year now is going to be a bottom half, bottom third in the Big Ten when it comes to rev share and NIL money for their men's basketball team, that's going to be a hard sell for a new coach. It's going to be a hard sell to get Pikiell out of this slide. And really, it's going to come down to him for identity, right? Getting his type of players to play his brand of basketball and player evaluation in the portal. Now, I'm hoping they can hire a GM. Everyone's panicking. It's not posted yet. I don't think that really matters. I think that's semantics. But the bottom line is the portal's now open and you don't have your GM in place. That's a misstep. That's a misstep. I'm sure there's red tape. I'm sure there was obstacles. You don't have an AD right now. Bottom line is, for in an off season and season ahead, in which I think Steve Pikiell and the staff need to show real urgency to turn this around, I think that that's a miss. Hopefully they have a GM in place soon, but you're going to have to start roster building without a GM. And I just think that that is not ideal. Now, when is Rutgers going to hire a president? When are they going to hire an athletic director? I don't know. But it's really, we're getting into April and decisions need to be made. And there needs to be an institutional plan as a whole. There needs to be a plan as an athletic department. Rev share is going to be pretty much approved early April. I know they have a plan in place with interim athletic director Ryan Passari, but there needs to be not just like a year-over-year plan. There's got to be a 5-year plan. How are we generating enough NIL? How are we going to allocate rev share? How is this athletic department going to generate revenue, NIL opportunities for student athletes, connections with businesses, pulling in new blood, right? Having real proactive approach here that this program, this athletic department, this university has not had. And that to me is the most concerning thing about the future. Everybody wants to focus about Steve Pikiell, the coach. I think it's clear he didn't have his guys this year. And that's on him. Can he correct it? I hope he can. He's got to go out and he's got to nail this transfer portal cycle. He's got to find guys that can come in and contribute. He needs 4 legit starters. He needs them. And I hope they really open their playbook in terms of their contacts, but also player evaluation, going out and getting in the mix for guys that maybe you don't have a connection to, but that can help you, that you've identified can help you, that can play your brand of basketball, they can get some kind of reference on, and that you have enough money to get them. They're going to have to be smart in how they allocate funds. Everyone's values through the roof. It's inflation right now. If you were worth $250,000 last year, you're worth $500,000 to $750,000 this year, or at least that's what they're telling people. That's what people are asking for. It's March. Values are inflated. Rutgers has to be strategic here. They have to toe the line. They can't just throw money at the first 3 players they see, right? They got to evaluate the market, and they have to play the game a little bit. And then potentially in April, you can get some better value. But that's why you need a GM in place yesterday. Don't have it. Not good. Steve Pikiell, so far, retaining all of his staff. We'll see if that continues. It sounds like that is the plan for now. Of course, Brandon Knight, someone else could leave for another job. That's always possible as well. Will they be changing their approach offensively? Lots of questions. Steve Pikiell has not spoken to the media yet. He will soon. So when he does, we'll evaluate some of those comments. But I think the offseason's officially begun. Rutgers has a ton of work to do. They're not in a great spot financially. They're not in a terrible spot. But don't kid yourself. In terms of what they're up against, the top of the Big Ten, the middle of the Big Ten, the non-Power 4, but basketball school type conferences, Big East, A10, they have money. They have money with the rev share, with NIL. Rutgers is going to have to thread that needle. They can't just throw money at the wrong players. They can't just outbid other programs, and it can't just be, well, this guy wanted to come to Rutgers. That can't be the reason because he's from 20 miles away or whatever. It's got to be guys that believe in his system, believe in his style of play. You need veteran guys. You need seniors. You need, if you can get a junior, great, but you need seniors. You need to get old. You need to get experience. And then that blends itself better, right, to this condensed time frame in building a roster and building a team. You have 4 freshmen already. I mean, 4 freshmen is kind of crazy at this point, but you got to fill roster spots. You have 15 now with the rev share if that goes through. So you got 4 there. You got 4 retaining players right now. That technically gives you 7 spots if the rev share goes through. They're not going to fill all 7, but you got to get 4 legit starters. You have to get 4 legit starters. You would think they have anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 per starter. That's not bad-ish, solid-ish, right? But also center, you're probably gonna have to go maybe higher for that. So they're gonna have to manage this the right way. That's why you need a GM in place ASAP. And player evaluation, they gotta hit. They gotta get Pikiell's type of guys into this program. I don't think all hope is lost. I know people feel that way. It's natural. I'm still very upset about it. I tweeted, the national media, as Bill Simmons was talking about, how, they wish there was like a producer's choice that you pick Rutgers into the NCAA tournament. It's something I'll never get over. Yeah, I'll never get over this season, right? But I'm also willing to look at the value that Steve Pikiell's brought in the past and give hope that they've learned from this and they're moving on and they have a plan. And we have to just sit back right now, and it's hard to be patient, but hope that they have a plan that will work, that they can execute, and that will bring this program back to the NCAA tournament next season. They need it. Pikiell needs it for his legacy at Rutgers, for his tenure. His 3 years without it. Had some bad luck along the way, no doubt. Injuries, all kinds of things. An athletic director that really let him down at the end. But now you're going to have a new athletic director come in at some point, and you're going to have to show value. And that's where the urgency comes in. And I think, truthfully, he's got some work to do with the fan base. I think he's got to get the fan base to believe again. You're not going to really, really do that, especially the certain fans, until you start winning again. But you have to outline a plan. You have to show that, okay, this season was terrible, but we've learned from it, and this is how we're going to apply it, and this is how we're going to get the program turned around. And I, for one, will stand at the front and say, I hope they do, and we'll be thrilled if and when they do. But you got to get 4 legit starters out of the portal. You probably have about $5 million to work with. So you got to be smart. You can't miss. And you have to be strategic. More to come this offseason for sure. I'll be back soon enough to talk more hoops, also talk football, and whatever else we want to talk about whenever they hire a president, an AD would be nice if they did that sometime before, I don't know, 2026 summer. Can we do it before the school year's over? I mean, I understand there's a process. You want to get the right people in place, but every day you're not in the game, you're out of the game. And right now, as an institution, as an athletic department, Rutgers needs vision. They need new blood, and they don't have it. Thanks so much for listening and watching once again here at the Scarlet Faithful Podcast.